right. Today is Monday, July 3rd, 2023, and I'm Stephen Butler, president of the Richardson Historical and Genealogical Society, and I'm here in Richardson, Texas today with Barbara Suker, who is a counselor at Berkner High School and a longtime resident of Richardson. So we're going to be talking about Richardson going back a few years. All right, Barbara, first of all, can you tell me where you were born and in what year?
I was born in Dallas in 1945.
1945, just as the war was ending.
Yes.
Huh? Okay. That's World War II for those of you who don't know which war we're referring to. Okay, so what is your occupation? I said it, but I'd like to hear it from you.
I'm a counselor, a high school counselor at Berkner High School. I have worked in RISD for 46 years.
And RISD stands for?
Richardson Independent School District.
For how many years again?
46.
Wow, that's a long time. What's your educational level? What high school did you attend or graduate from? What colleges and universities did you attend and graduate from? What degrees have you earned, etc.?
I graduated from Richardson High School.
Okay.
And then I went to SMU.
Now, if you don't mind my stopping you just real for a second, when you say Richardson High School, where was the high school when you graduated from there? Was it where it is now on Beltline, or was it somewhere else?
Actually, we were the second graduating class of the high school on Beltline.
Okay.
Before that, it was at the school off of Abrams.
Okay. Did you actually go to classes at the school?
Oh, absolutely, because it was the junior high.
It later became the junior high, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and go ahead, then I interrupted you. So after high school, then what?
SMU, and I got a degree in music education. A bachelor's degree. And then I got a master's degree in school counseling at Illinois State University.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're from Texas, and you ended up going to school in Illinois. How did that happen?
My husband and I got married, and the next day we moved to Illinois so he could work at the home office of State Farm in Normal and Bloomington, Illinois. And
okay.
Illinois State is in Normal, Illinois.
I see. So it was his job that took you up there. Okay. So, so you weren't born in Richardson like me. I was also born in Dallas, just like you. So you weren't born in Richardson, but how long have you actually lived here in Richardson?
So it would be 53 years. Yes, 53 years. We lived in Illinois for a year and in Little Rock for a year, but otherwise we have lived in the house in Richardson for 53 years.
Okay, that's with your husband.
Right.
But didn't you live here in Richardson prior to that?
I was 9 years old when I moved here.
Oh.
1954.
1954 is when you first saw Richardson.
Yes.
You were 9 years old. Wow. So you would have gone to one of the elementary schools, obviously.
There was no one of the. It was one elementary school, which was in the school administration building.
Okay, so you went to the school in the old red brick building on Greenville Avenue. Wow. And how long did you go there?
3rd through 6th grade.
Wow. And then you went over to the new high school.
No. Then I went to Richardson Junior High.
Or what?
Abrams.
Oh, okay. Okay. And then to Richardson High School. Oh, okay. All right. Well, okay. So you came to Richardson when you were 9 with your parents.
Yes.
What brought your family to Richardson? What was it that brought your family here?
My father worked for Braniff Airlines, and before we lived right close to Love Field in that area, and they wanted to get away from there. He used to walk to work at Love Field.
No kidding.
And so they wanted to get out a little farther away from the city, and so they came here. And when we came here, it's not like it is today. It was vast majority was farmland.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What changes have you seen in Richardson during the years you've lived here? So you said it was mostly farmland. Just out of curiosity, what part of Richardson? Did you live in Heights or Terrace? Or?
No, we lived on Grace, which is right over by, all the streets are named girls' names, Grace and Melody and so on. It's over by the old Richardson Junior High.
Oh, okay, in that area.
And we could look out the back door right across the creek and see people riding their horses to Willingham and Buckingham.
Now, Willingham, that's something that probably a lot of people nowadays aren't familiar with.
Right.
Could you explain that?
Well, there were two streets to the south of Richardson. One was Buckingham and the other Willingham.
Oh, okay, those are street names.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, but Buckingham was actually a separate town, too,
right,
wasn't it?
And Willingham was the other street in Buckingham.
Oh, okay. So,
but they rode their horses right on by. There were no houses.
Did you ever ride a horse?
Not there.
Okay. Well, what other changes have you seen at Richardson since 1954?
Well, my best friend all the way through elementary, all the way through high school, lived at the corner of what is now Beltline and Plano Roads. That was total farmland also. So you can imagine it just was out in the country. And she would go out at night and see all the raccoons climbing around and the possums and the coyotes and everything. It was total farmland. And now look at it now.
So you're talking about where maybe the shopping mall was built later, and maybe this neighborhood too, where we are now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Total, there was nothing there but her house.
And what were the farmers growing? Do you remember?
Cotton. I know it was cotton and corn, but I don't remember what.
A lot of cotton and corn, yeah. Okay. And so, okay, well, what are some other memories of Richardson that you'd like to share?
Well, I remember, as I was saying before, the library was on Main Street in just like a storefront.
Okay.
So it was not a big deal at all. Another thing, when we moved here, there were no parks or swimming pools or anything like that. And my father taught swimming as a sideline, and so he went to the city council and he said, we need to have a swimming pool in this growing city. And they listened to him and they decided to put in a pool, and it's still there. It's Terrace Pool. Right.
Oh, really? The Terrace Pool.
And he was the one who started the whole thing.
And that was the first pool?
It was the only one for quite a while.
Really?
Until they did Heights.
Oh, gosh. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And this was about what time?
1960, maybe not that. No, probably right around 1960.
Okay.
Then they started developing the parks, trails, and so on.
Right. Well, any other memories of Richardson?
I remember the church that we still go to was located on Greenville as First Presbyterian, which is now kind of on Greenville, but behind the police station there.
Right.
That was on Greenville. It was much smaller, just an old traditional little white church.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
It was a wooden frame building, wasn't it?
With a steeple on it.
Right.
And we went there every Sunday. Everybody went to church on Sundays.
Then the Methodists were across the street, I believe. The Baptists down the street.
Were down the street, yeah.
And in those days, probably most people, if they went to church, went to one of those three churches.
Yes.
Do you remember seeing any religious houses of worship that were non-Christian or non-Protestant?
Not at all.
No. Okay. So no Catholics, right? No Jewish people. No Muslims. No Hindus. Nothing. It was just everybody was
very traditional.
Yeah. And what about the racial makeup of the city at that time in the 50s?
I remember only white people. I don't
see.
remember any. Now, there was Hamilton Park, and those students did come eventually, and I don't remember the year, segregated, but up until that, no, not at all.
Okay, so Richardson was, as they often say, lily white up
Yes.
for a long time during the era that you came here.
Yes.
Do you remember any of the early shopping centers? What stores were there?
I remember Heights Shopping Center went in, and I don't even remember much about it. There was a Penny's there. I remember that, but there weren't many shopping centers at all. It was out in the country.
Well, Heights was the first one.
Yeah,
for sure. Sun Rexall, of course, is famous. Did you ever shop there?
Oh yes, of course, right on the corner. Guess that's Party City now.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Now it's Party City. Been Party City for quite a while now. And wasn't there a Woolworths there too?
Now that I don't remember. I don't know.
Okay. Somebody I think told me, or I saw a picture. I can't remember. All right. Well, just out of curiosity, what is it that you like the most about Richardson? Is there anything that, because you've been here a long time, so you must, I would assume you like it here. So what is it about Richardson that you do like?
One of the things has always been the school district, that they have always seemed to have the focus of doing what's best in educating children. And they've always had superintendents that really were outstanding and worked so hard to make the school district and the schools good places for kids to be. And I think that was one of the biggest things, because my children and your children went through Richardson schools, and my grandchildren, one will be starting kindergarten this year, and one will be starting 9th grade at Richardson High School, just like I did.
Wow.
So I think it's just been a very good experience over the years in the school district.
Okay, so you worked for RISD for over 40 years, and you mentioned superintendents. Of the superintendents you worked under, who would you say was the most memorable?
Do you want me to say a name?
Oh, well, these are people who are deceased, so yeah.
Obviously, J.J. Pierce was wonderful, and he lived right down the street from where we lived on Grace. He lived on Pittman. And, of course, he sent out birthday cards to every single student every
year. I've heard about that.
Yes, he did.
That's true?
Yes.
Every student. Of course, they had fewer students in the early days.
Yeah.
Did he continue that right through the end of his term?
As far as I know, yes.
Wow.
Did a wonderful. He was the right person for that job at the time. He really was.
I heard he sent cards to the teachers too.
I don't remember that, but yeah.
But definitely to the students.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the teachers they had just created a wonderful atmosphere for the kids. It was a real education, positive education.
Well, that's great. And is there anything that you don't like about Richardson? Anything you would say is something that could be improved, perhaps?
The only thing I can think of is I wish they would stop speeding down Plano Road. That's something new that has come up in the last few years, and those cars go probably 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, I've seen some speeders on Plano Road myself.
It's dangerous.
So I guess what you're saying is it would be nice maybe if the police patrol that area a little more frequently.
Right.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Okay.
Another thing that I remembered, just thinking about two things I remembered, was Coyden Beltline. I don't know if you know this, but that never was an intersection until, I don't know how many years ago, 10, 15 years ago. It was a circle. And to cross, let's say you were going east on Beltline, you wouldn't just stop at the intersection and keep going. You had to merge into this circle and go around the circle and then get off of it.
At Coit and Beltline?
At Coit and Beltline.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, that's the truth. I remember.
Oh,
I'm
not doubting you.
Yeah.
But
maybe it was 30 years ago, maybe, but yeah.
Oh.
It was a circle.
Really, a traffic circle, which is very uncommon. Well, they have more of them now, but they're still somewhat uncommon in this area. You know?
Oh yeah, it was very unhandy. I mean, you'd have to sit there and wait till you could merge on.
Well, they have a lot of those in Europe, in the UK especially, and I've seen them in other cities. I saw one over in Garland not too long ago. I think it's the only one they got.
Yeah, I've seen one in Garland also, off of Brand.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Only it was much bigger than that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a circle down in Dallas on Harry Hines and Northwest Highway.
Yeah,
in
I know
fact,
what you're talking about.
They called it the circle.
Yeah.
And everybody knew what the circle was. And I think that was the only one in this area for a long time. But I didn't know about the one at Coit. That's interesting.
Another thing I remembered was, and this is way back now, that 75 did not go all the way through to Plano originally.
Okay, where did it go up to?
It stopped probably around Forest Lane. Well, then they built it from there, going towards Plano. And they asked the band, on the day that they opened it, they asked the Richardson High School band to march along it right before they opened it. So we got to march on 75.
So you were in the band?
Yes.
In the high school band?
Yes.
Oh, and you got to march down 75 Central, which wasn't as wide then as it is now. Do you remember how many lanes it was originally?
I think it was probably 4, 2 and
2 on each side.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
and it ended, I think, at Campbell Road. Does that sound right? Yeah. And just out of curiosity, what instrument did you play?
I played the flute.
Oh.
And I was first chair all-state flute player. So.
Okay. So if I were to look at an old high school annual from those days, I would see you in the band picture.
Right.
I might do that.
Yeah.
I might add it to this interview.
Yeah. Yeah. The band was a big deal, and football was a big deal.
So remind me again, what years were you in high school?
I graduated in 1963, and that's why we're trying to have our 60th reunion this year.
Oh, okay. So you were started in what, in 59 or 60? Did the high school start in 9th grade in those days, or 10th?
I can't remember. I think it was 9th, but I'm not sure.
Well, the reason I ask is because somebody else told me that the high school band marched in Dwight Eisenhower's inaugural parade,
that was true.
But that would have been early, before you were there.
And I believe they did. I was not part of that.
Yeah. Well, I know they did. I looked it up, but that was before you were there.
Now I remember that because when we lived on Grace, we used to see the band practicing for that, and they would march around on the streets there.
They'd march around on the city streets.
Right, to practice to go for the inauguration, because the high school was still at Richardson Junior High.
Oh.
And that's why they would march in the streets. I hadn't thought about that in years.
Yeah. I met a guy not too long ago who said he was in the band then. He remembered going to Washington and everything. Yeah. Let's see, Eisenhower's second inaugural would have been 57, I believe. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but January 57. Wow. So you missed that. You missed that one. But you did get to march down 75 Central. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
That's pretty cool. I noticed you brought some things on a piece of paper that you maybe wanted to bring up. You want to get into those?
I think I have said all of them that we were talking about. The only thing that sticks with me was my first day of school here in Richardson. And
Oh,
again,
and when you were in elementary school.
right, so it was third grade, and my mother took me up to the school to enroll, and there was Edith Pierce, Dr. Pierce's wife. She was the school secretary.
No kidding, I
Yes,
didn't know that.
yes, very, very nice lady. And so she took me over to the class, and I guess I can say the teacher's name because and her name was Mrs. Campbell of the Campbell Road family.
Oh, really?
And so she took me to the class, and I walked in the door. And when you're third grade, you don't know what's going on. You're scared, and it was the first change I'd ever made in school. So all the children were nice. Everybody was nice. And Mrs. Campbell said, "Now we're going over to the auditorium to practice for our Valentine's Day program, our play tomorrow that we're doing."
Oh.
Well, I was insulted because here I was the new student, and I was going to have to sit out in the audience while everybody else got to be in the play. So we went over there. Everybody got in their places to practice. And Ms. Campbell looked at me and said, "And your part in the play will be to announce it. She will let everyone know what we're going to do." And from that moment on, I thought, there's something right about the Richardson School District, because that lady sensed how upset I was, and she figured out a way to make my first day of school really special.
To include you,
a
brand new kid, in
so the next day, there I was. The entire auditorium was filled. They've got the same hard seats in that auditorium, just like they've always had. And I said, "Welcome to Miss Campbell's third grade class Valentine's play." That was all I had to do to make me feel like I was part of it. And from that day on, I was part of Richardson and Richardson School District.
Wow.
And I've never forgotten that, and I've tried to do that same thing.
That was a wonderful experience, a wonderful introduction.
Wonderful introduction to
the school district.
And to the city, too.
And did you say in the back of your mind, someday I'm going to work for the school district?
I probably did. And then here I am.
Yeah. Well, just out of curiosity, so you're a counselor at Berkner. How long have you been a counselor at Berkner?
This will be 20 years.
20 years this year. Wow. So that would have been 2003 you started?
Or 4. Maybe it's my 19th year. I think it was 2004 I started.
Okay. And before that?
Prairie Creek Elementary.
And you were a counselor there?
Right.
Okay.
And then at Richardson Junior High when it was still a junior high.
Okay. What years would that have been?
I don't know.
I'm trying to figure out if you were there when my sons were there. My sons, well, let's see.
Your son is the same age as my son. I think they graduated in 98 or something. Is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have another son who was there earlier in the late 80s. So I'm trying to think when he was there. Let's see, he was born in 72. So he would have been in that school when he was 14. That would have been 1984, 85, I think. Were you there then, in the mid 80s?
At Richardson Junior High?
Yeah.
I was at Prairie Creek for 12 years. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So you work as a counselor at Berkner and have worked as a counselor in other places. So what does a counselor do these days? How does that work?
We try to get them ready to go to college and not push them, but guide them to do that. We try to get them to be good students and turn in their work. Try to get them to pass everything. Try to get them involved in things and different activities. We just do a whole lot of different things. Yeah.
Do you, I remember when I was in school, the counselors would also administer what do they call it?
The standardized test.
Well, yeah, they would, the various types of tests, aptitude tests, and things like that. Do they still do aptitude tests?
that's available, but now they have this whole wonderful system called Navions, and they can get all sorts of testing and career advice and applications to college, and it's just we don't have to do any of that. It's all online for them.
Oh, okay.
Education has changed a lot.
I know. I haven't taught in public schools myself for quite a long time. But yeah, are there any people in Richardson who might not be around anymore that you remember who stood out in your mind? For example, did you ever shop at Harbin's drugstore?
Oh, of course.
Down on Main Street?
Of course, and Simpson Barnett. That was another drugstore.
Oh, really? Where was that?
It was on Greenville, 1 block south of Beltline.
1 block south of Beltline.
Right on the corner there.
Oh, okay.
Remember that?
That would have been not too far from where the Presbyterian Church used to be.
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
Yeah. And any other stores or shops that you remember?
I'm trying to remember. There was the doctor's office there, right at the corner where they've got that place now where you can sit at Beltline and Greenville, Main Street in Greenville. There was a doctor's office there. I remember that. He actually made house calls. I do remember that too.
Really? Do you remember the doctor's
I want to say it was Roundtree. I think that was it.
Oh, okay.
We didn't have to go to the doctor much, so.
Well, that's good.
Yes, it was.
That's good.
I don't remember too much. I remember the bank that was right on Main Street there.
Citizens State Bank.
And
did your family bank there?
I'm sure they did. I remember when I got my first car, that was where I went for a loan to get it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And did they approve it?
They did.
Oh, well, you were lucky.
Yes. I'm trying to think of anything else there. Of course, the bank, the big bank, the big tower has been there quite a long time now, hasn't it? Right on 75.
Yeah, it has been. Yeah.
Remember that being there, but other than that, I don't remember much else. Oh, I remember what was the little store, the dime store over there, where the Chinese development, all those stores are.
Oh, the Terrace Shopping Center.
Emmy Moses.
Emmy Moses. Yeah, that was still here when we moved here in the 80s.
And Skiller's had a
drugstore.
drugstore.
Skiller's drugstore was there. Yeah. Now it's Chinatown. Do you remember any of the old houses in Richardson that have been knocked down over the years?
Very much over on Greenville, where those, Brick Row?
Yeah.
My friend that lived at Beltline and Plano, her grandmother lived in one of those older homes that has been torn down.
Mm-hmm.
And every day my friend would go home, walk down the street and have lunch with her grandmother and go back to school.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was nice. Did she ever bring you with her?
I don't think she ever did. I think she liked having her grandmother to herself maybe or something.
Well, that's nice.
And that was one other thing that you just reminded me of. That was back in the days when polio was just rampant.
Oh.
And so the school district came up with a plan, or public health came up with a plan to give us all vaccinations for polio.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, nobody wanted to get a shot, but they had to get permission, and all the parents said, oh, yes. So we were lined up in front of the elementary school one day, and we just walked in a line and came to a stop. They gave us the shot. We kept on going.
So you remember that for sure. There's something we had in Dallas I wanted to ask you about since you went to Richardson schools. When I was in the 3rd grade, this would have been 1957 or 58, we were issued, that all the kids in the school were issued dog tags.
I know, yes.
You got those in Richardson too.
And I remember the student whose mother really, really, really pushed that.
Yeah.
And so we all did. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what those were for?
If we were bombed and
they'd be able
to identify
identify the kids who
Right.
was killed by in a nuclear blast.
Yes.
I didn't know that myself at the time. I know it now. I learned that later. I thought it was pretty cool
Yeah.
because me and my friends used to refight World War II in our front yards, you know, with helmet liners and backpacks we got at the Army surplus store and, you know, toy guns. And if we could add those dog tags to our outfits,
It'd be really cool.
yeah, that was cool. And of course, I didn't realize those were actually
Meaning of
disaster tags, but they had those in Richardson
too. I remember that. Yeah.
Do you remember? You said you didn't remember what year desegregation took place, but do you remember anything about desegregation? How did that go in Richardson, to your recollection?
It must have gone okay because I don't remember anything.
You don't remember any trouble?
No.
It went pretty smoothly, did it?
It must have because, again,
I
don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when researching my book, I discovered the elementary schools were desegregated in 1964.
Okay.
And I think the high school's a little later. But other people that I've spoken to have said the same thing that you did, that it generally went smoothly. There was no trouble like there was in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Right. Yeah.
Back in whenever that was, 1957, I think.
Yeah.
So nobody went out and protested or anything like that. Well, that's good to hear. Anything else that comes to mind?
I can't think of anything right now. I think those were the main things. I have been very fortunate to live in Richardson. I don't complain about it. I don't complain about working in the schools. Students are very respectful to me and very helpful.
Are they? Well, that's good.
My goodness, yes. They see me coming, they'll run, literally will run to open the door for me.
No kidding.
Yes.
Isn't that nice?
I do not say anything negative. They're just very, very helpful and kind to me. And I just thought of another thing. You know, there was a football stadium.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about the football stadium.
Behind the administration building.
Yeah.
And that was where they played all the football games.
Right.
Now it's all gone.
Yeah. Do you know when they tore that down? I can't remember for some reason. I think it was still here when we moved here in the early 80s. But
it was definitely.
I think it's only been about 20 years ago that it was torn down.
If that long. Yeah. It was a very nice stadium.
Yeah, it was. It was called Memorial Stadium.
Was it?
Apparently. Because they built it right after World War II.
Okay. I believe that. Yeah, it was a good place to.
Is that where you had your high school graduation?
No, we had it at the new one had opened a year before we graduated, so we had it at the stadium over on Beltline.
Oh, the new stadium behind the school. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I hope I've given you some information for.
Yeah,
if I think of other things, I
will
let you know.
Barbara, while we're here, I'm going to work in a plug for the Richardson Historical and Genealogical Society, which recently published this book, Historic Richardson, Texas, a sesquicentennial souvenir guidebook. I wrote it, and it has excerpts from some of the other books I've written about Richardson history. But basically what it is a collection of historic sites in Richardson and information about them, like McCamey Spring, for example, or the site of Breckenridge, which was the town that existed prior to Richardson. And there's the back of the book. There's a picture of the fountain at City Hall. And so This is presently, as of July 2023, this is presently available on Amazon.com for $20.23. That's a special sesquicentennial price, and I would like to encourage anyone watching this video to buy a copy and help support the Richardson Historical and Genealogical Society. No, there we go.
All right. Well, all right. I think I told you everything I could remember.
Okay. Well, this is good.
And we're trying to have the reunion in the fall.
All right.
But
well, that's something we could include in the video. So you say that the class of 63 is trying to have a reunion this fall, 60th reunion. So if someone sees this video and wants to get involved with that or attend, what should they do? Who should they contact?